welcome to St. Matthews, just surrounded by all the saints that went before us and on the space of these stories. What is faith? Faith plays in our everyday life. It says we turn on our water, we get in our car and hope it starts, our alarm clock goes off, but most recently, our faith may have been tested a little bit when we turned the lights on with all the storms. The electric was off. We had faith that the power company would get the power back on for us. So, where did my faith start? My faith, I believe, started in baptism. When I was baptized, and my Aunt Shirley was my sponsor. On July 12, 1953, they made it in mine when I was baptized. So, where does our faith go from there? I think my faith goes into your parents, which was my mother, that took us to church and Sunday school every week that we went, it was just a ritual. We did it. And even though today her mind is not what it is, her faith is still in her heart, and God is still with her. So, I have like 3 stories to tell, I guess, of how my faith has been tested and how my faith continues. So I want to start off with my wife, which is nearly 12 years ago. She had open heart surgery, and after the surgery, she went into cardiac arrest, and her heart stopped for like 4 or 5 minutes. And our faith at that moment was really tested. And so they got her going again, and she was in the ICU, and she was like in a coma, and she wasn't responding at all. They could not figure it out. So a week and a half, probably been a week and a half, and I come to church here on Sunday morning, and I left church and I had the radio on, and there was a church service on. It was out of Salina, and I believe it was a Lutheran church over there. But on my way to the hospital that morning, I heard a saying this preacher said, when you're down to nothing, God is up to something good. And I never forgot that saying. And that gave me faith, I guess. So we went into the next week, and it had been like 2 weeks, and it was the weekend before Thanksgiving, and the doctor said, that we're going to have to decide what we're going to have to do with her. So it came Thanksgiving morning. I went to the hospital, and she was sitting in a chair. And all she had on was an oxygen. And here she'd been on the ventilator, and she missed coma for nearly 2 years. So our faith was really tested then, but I walked in here, and the first thing she said, I want a Pepsi. so, and then I worked at Pepsi, and then the nurses said, well, give her whatever she wants. Give her a Pepsi. That's what she wants. That's what she wants. So, but lo and behold, the time went by, and she made a full recovery. And one of the doctors came in there and looked in the room, and I was sitting there with her, and he just looked, and he never said one word, and he shook his head and walked out. And to this day, I believe that it was a miracle. It was more than faith, it was a miracle that she survived this. And to this day, when she goes to her doctor, he said, there's my miracle child. So almost 12 years later. So my next story is with my brothers. I had 3 brothers, and our faith was really tested with my brothers. We had, they had 3 different, one had an accident and 2 others had cancer. And, we went through some very difficult times with that. The youngest one was 17. And all of them were members here at St. Matthews, and they had their faith. But it was a tough time that we went through with them, and understanding. But, we prayed, and everything we hoped, the outcome, but the outcome is maybe not the way we wanted. But our faith still stayed strong in Him. So it was a tough time for us all, at that time. So I guess it comes down to my story. It's been nearly a year and 11 months when I first went in for a routine surgery, and they found what the doctors called a disease, which is cancer in my colon. So went and had another surgery, and they removed part of my colon and lymph nodes. But they discovered that I had cancer that spread to my liver, which is, it's sort of doom and gloom. Everybody's it's pretty serious. You just don't recover from it. So, but I said, I was going to keep my faith alive and just pray and hope that, God will carry me through this. So we went up, me and my wife went up, we had a consultation at the doctor's office, and the doctor said the nurses, are going to be your best friends up here. So we went in, the nurse, and she was sort of stern and sort of grouchy, and I said, these girls, she's going to be my friend, she's going to, I come out here, she gave us a lot of information, there's a lot of information that she threw at me in about half an hour's time. So we left there, and we were scheduled then for, I don't know, a week later to start my treatment. So I was going to start on treatment. Everybody knows chemo. You get chemo, everybody gets sick, you lose your hair, you feel terrible. But I told my wife, I said, I'm going to be an example. I'm not going to be sick. And I'm going to, deal with this. So I started my chemo, and, I didn't really feel bad. I took chemo for a long time, and I sustained and was, still working. And I never wanted to act like I had cancer. I didn't want to be a cancer patient. I did not, sort of deny that I had cancer. It gave me faith to live my life the way I had been living it. So, we went through treatments for a long time, and I never really did get sick. But then later on, we changed treatments, and the treatments did is all, I lost my hair, and I got some back now. But it sort of did make me sick. I went through some tough days, but through my faith and praying, and that, He was guiding me through this, that I got through it. I would get through it. I would sustain, and get back to my life and go back to work. And I worked until just recently. I just, gave up working, but I worked through all that and tried to do my everyday thing and be with my family and do all my, everyday things that I do. So, at the center, I went through the treatments, and I'm not one to sit around. So I don't know, I got up, and I would always be out walking, and I'm talking to other patients. And I got to meet a lot of nice friends and people up there, and hear their stories. And I would sit and, ask their story, and, tell my story, and ask, if there was anything they needed. And a lot of people were praying for me, and they would pray. I was praying for them, and they, I just met so many wonderful people up there. You just wondered. And I was probably one of the youngest people up there. So, and there was a few other young ones came in, and I talked to them too. But there's times then, the nurses, they come, where's your husband at? He's out walking around. He's out walking around. Where's your, because I was trying to minister, I guess, to the other patients. So, the nurses up there, it came to be that all the nurses, the staff, the receptionists, the girls that take, the lab girls, I got to be super friendly with them. It turned out that now we're always hugging each other. How are you doing? And everybody always comes down and asks how you're doing. And it really did turn out to be that they are your friends. They were really, I don't know, I have a super relationship with all those people up there. It's just unbelievable. But there were a few times when I was there, and there were new patients come in, and the nurse came over and said, Mark, would you mind going over and talk to this new patient? She's scared. And I said, well, sure, I don't have a problem. So I went over, there was one girl that sort of had the same circumstance that I had. And I went over and talked to her, let her talk, and I talked to her, and showed her, I'm up, I'm getting around. So, and I always offered them a prayer, and they were always thankful to have a prayer with me. And there was some other people there that were, that I went up and talked to that had, similar instances to what I had. So, my story continued then, and I was doing well. And so in March of this year, I was doing really well. And the doctor, out of the blue, I never expected, it took me off of treatments for 3 months. So I went off treatment, and that was sort of the happiest day of my life for the last year and a half because, you think about going to treatment every other week or every 3 weeks. And so I did well, and then I sort of had a setback. We went and did more tests, and I've had sort of a setback. But now, I've started treatments back, and I feel that my faith now has to be stronger than ever to try to recover and get this back under control, because that's the main goal, is they try to control the disease. So, I'm progressing. It's sort of been slow. It's been tough the last month or so, but I do feel that I am progressing, and that with God's help, that He will, He sustains me. But I know whatever happens in my life, that God is taking care of me, and whatever happens, and I put it in His will, and that, I will sustain whatever faces me. So there's a lot of songs out there. I sort of rely on songs. I sing songs to myself. I'm not a singer by any means, but there's one song that sort of carried me through, that I sort of sang if I knew the next day was going to be trouble. And that song is "Because He Lives." And the song, the refrain, I always repeat the refrain, that the song, "Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all my fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living, just because He lives." And I sang that a lot of times, and I told the pastor, we sang about, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks ago, whatever. And I said, that refrain, and the whole song is beautiful, but the refrain, I just always remember the refrain, because, the next day may be tough, but, you can face it, and I know with Him that my fear is gone, because He will carry me through. So, and I'd like to thank Pastor Calgary, even though he's not here today. He has been so wonderful to me, and so many thoughts and stuff. But there was a time when his sermons, when he was preaching, it seemed like he was preaching to me only. I don't know, because it just fit in my everyday life, the things that were going on according to my life. And I told him, I said, "Are you sure you're not just preaching to me?" He said, "No," he said, "you're just hearing it different." He said, "You're just hearing it different." And I said, I thank you, your message would carry me through that week. And, I was so happy that I was ready to come back the next week. And that's what brings me back. Even though I might not have felt good, I wanted to be here in this church because I love this church. I've been here nearly 50 years in this church. And you people out here, the congregation, your love and support for me has been just unbelievable. And I thank you all for all your prayers and all everything that you've done for me, and all your thoughts and your cards and texts and everything. It's just unbelievable the love of this congregation for me. And I feel so wanted, and feel so good in this congregation. But even though Pastor's not here, I just, want him to know that I thank him so much for everything he's done. So, I do have 1 or 2 more things here. I have a few special guests here in the congregation that have been really good to me and have kept my faith alive. And that would be my cousin Karen and her husband Mike and her family, and my aunt and uncle John and Shirley Swagel, and my uncle Charles. And even though Alice is not here, his wife's not here, she's one of the saints. She was so good to me. On my visits with her, kept my faith alive. And one thing I just fussed about is the potato soup and her peach cobbler, and she, and her company was so good. It kept my faith alive, and she always had something sweet for me, and her banana nut bread. She always sent me a banana nut bread. So that's one thing I miss. even though she's not here, she's here in spirit, even though she's a saint in her sainthood. And some of my other cousin Larry and his family, my cousin Larry, and Kathy Everly, and my cousin Janet and cousin Ronnie. And I just thank you all for all your support and love for me, and it's just, I don't know, it's just overwhelming with all your text messages, your calls, your cards, and least but not least, my family, my wife Stephanie, and my daughter James, and my son John, and my other son Joel. He's not here today, but they've been through. I try to, do whatever I can with them, and I just thank them for all their love and support. And it's just, I don't know, it's just overwhelming, how, and I can be here today, and I feel good today, and sustain this, this faith that goes about us. So I just, I don't know, I guess that's my story. But I have one other thing that the preacher said. He said, we know the next song today, because I love to tell the story. But I hope all of us sing that loud so all the saints can hear us in the cemetery. So, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for sharing your story.